Hello, everyone. Welcome to Martechify. We're doing a small group conversation. With me today, I have Asmita Singh, the CMO of Barbary. I have Bernie Griesbach he is currently a fractional CMO with Serviap Global and Strong Financial. I have Catherine Solazzo. She is a CMO and is currently consulting in the space of IT. We have a really interesting topic today. All of my guests today have a very big background in, let's say, large-scale organizations that are undergoing transformation in technology and through their people as well. And all of them have been, working really hard to create meaningful KPIs for their organizations so that companies can continue to make good decisions, to understand the value of marketing. And it can be really challenging when there's a lot of change going on and you're working with large organizations. So what we're going to do today is have a little discussion about this topic. And my name is Tina Schweiger. I am an ambassador for Martechify, and I'll be facilitating the conversation today. Thank you so much for watching and joining. And I'll get started with Asmita. Can you give us a little bit of background on yourself and what you're working on right now and just some initial thoughts on our topic?
Thank you, Tina. Thank you. I'm Asmita Singh, Chief Marketing Officer at Barbary. Been with Barbary for over 2.5 years. Barbary is the leader in legal education, and we provide end-to-end legal education products to students, law firms, and law schools. My background in marketing is more technology marketing, data-driven marketer, and I like understanding the science behind marketing. I've led many these complex transformation projects, and the topic which you're bringing is pretty apt because when you're leading some of these complex transformation, and I'll unpack the word transformation because it's used very in different contexts. When you are working in an organization, one of the things which I am currently leading at Barbary is bringing all the technology stack together from a lot of acquisitions which were done in last 8 to 10 years at Barbary. So Barbary leaders in bar review, but has a vision to expand beyond our core products and bring our services end to end. Requires you to understand this persona from starting the journey to upsell and keep following it throughout their legal professional career, entire legal journey. We have great products in each part of our segments, but when as a marketer, I want to look at what's happening across each segment, the data was sitting in like 8 different places, 8 different HubSpots, Drip, MailChimp. I can name any technology you want to call it in marketing technology. It was there. So when I started here and saw this vision of growth, the number one problem I thought, like, we have to bring everything together into a unified tech stack. Sounds like a nightmare project to take to bring 8 different systems together. But that was the right decision to take. Show the investment. Like, it's not just about how it will enable and make it easier for targeting, marketing these people when they are in one stack, financially as well. Like, if you're investing in like 8 different or 9 different tools, it was a cost which can be easily avoided. So took this project. We are almost at the finish line, successfully bringing it to the finish line. But the journey, to your point, is explaining the broader vision of why you need one technology stack was the beginning of my conversation with our CFO, CEO, and then start showing progress over the period of time. Because you're not just changing the stack, you're changing the processes, you're also trying to align people. So change management became also a key part of this entire journey. And that's where the KPIs come into play. Like, what do we show? Because until you finish the entire project, which probably took me like 2 years to bring everything together. What do you show which are showing, what do you show like in terms of metrics, which are leading indicators of the data, leading indicators to show the progress? And that's how it all started. I'm happy to add more color.
Catherine and Bernie, do you have any questions that popped up in your mind while Asmita is talking about her current challenges?
No questions, but I feel your pain. Similar to you, when I was at my previous role, Syntax, I came into a scenario where we had five acquisitions that had been previously done. There was no CMO before, so I was the first CMO that they had, bringing together people, bringing together processes, platforms, but then also agencies that surround that. So I think the first thing that I did was have a discussion with the leadership team on what would success look like. They had been a very heavy event type of mix within the budget spend. We wanted to make a shift to digital, also incorporate some brand metrics. So really getting, as you said, those KPIs on paper was extremely important. Not only that, but when you have a blend of data, of definitions, of platforms, it's very hard to say this is what success looks like now because the history is completely different. So comparatively, performance is going to look like a very different movie from different company to different companies. So we had to say, okay, we need to give this, as you said, 2 years in market to really understand if this is working for us and make changes along the way. The way that we were able to do that was use industry benchmarking. And I'm sure all of us as CMOs know that every year there's published data around what conversion rates look like, what traffic looks like, all of those different things. So being able to lean on this is what the industry says good looks like was very important for me, especially with the CFO to say, this is the type of ROI we may see. Then when you have those patterns and you're able to understand more what your conversion rates look like, what your patterns and seasonalities are within your business, then you have more data for the next year and the next year. I think the key is making sure that the leadership has the commitment and also the patience to be able to see that through, because it's very hard to build that type of transformation in 6 months. So
Yeah, it kind of makes me think about those movies where you have like the murder investigation and you have the bulletin board with all the strings, like trying to connect one thing to
yeah.
another because you have so many systems and so many places. And where do you even find commonality with your KPIs? Bernie, do you have any insights into this?
Absolutely. I do believe that Asmita hit a couple of key points there. Um, Digital transformation plays a huge role in most M&A cases. The tech stacks are just a mess in many of those situations. Different CRMs, analytical tools. Um, I can relate to Catherine about disconnected data. The a merger or this kind of transformation is basically a chance to reset most of it. And my biggest question always, because I've been through a few of those, has been what data actually matters, right? And that
Right.
is a very big question when you talk to different stakeholders. What tools do we need to make decisions faster? Those are also kind of questions that we need to, address on different levels. And then we build KPIs that are not only trackable across systems, but also they kind of tied into real business outcomes. Um, that way, we're not just measuring for the sake of reporting or just to get the dashboard done, right? Because we've all been there. We're really driving behavior. We're trying to align everybody and make everybody accountable. across the entire original organization, and also now across the new organization as well. That is always very challenging, and it depends on how big the merger is. The bigger the merger, the bigger the headaches for sure. I bought up a couple of smaller startups in Brazil, which was fairly easy, although culture-wise it was a nightmare. But they had um, diversification, and it was easier to onboard those mergers. When it comes up to larger kind of mergers, it really is a much larger feat, and it has a lot more moving parts, and it normally takes a lot longer as well.
And Bernie, tell us a little bit about your background as well.
Of course. So I'm originally German. I started out working in sales in Germany. I'm a salesman by heart, and I feel very proud of that because it gave me the fundamentals of what a good marketer needs. Because at a certain point, I just asked myself, okay, how do I get the same results by knocking on less doors? And marketing was basically the answer to that, right? And so I went back to school, got my master's, and obviously perfected my marketing skills. And then right out of school, I was hired by a Spanish financial conglomerate and started working with them. And they didn't find a better idea to send me out to Brazil, Chile, Argentina, different countries in Latin America for the most part, to do a little bit of the field work and look out for new startups or new technical developments that would be impactful and would be giving us an edge when it came to competitivity. And it was a lot of fun. I really had a lot to do, many different projects at one point. We also worked with different large tech companies. IBM was one of them. Tata was another one. Salesforce for all the for the marketing tech, and so we really had a lot of things, moving parts at all time. It was never a dull moment in my career, and I moved to the States about 6 years ago, leaving that company after almost 15 years with them. And it was a hard goodbye, but it was for the sake of my children, basically. So that's why I'm here in the States now.
Oh, welcome. And Catherine, could you give us a little background about yourself as well?
Sure. Well, I started my career at IBM. I was a multi-generational IBMer, and I started in communications actually as a speechwriter. So very different than what I do today. However, I think it really helped me in building a narrative for the business, which I think is very important as a CMO, to be able to really understand what the value proposition is. I spent some time in technical sales. I moved into product marketing as my first opportunity there, going deep in the portfolio. I then moved into a field marketing role. Then I ended up leading field marketing. I was then sent to Japan for what was supposed to be a one-year assignment. And if you know IBM stands for I've been moved. It turned into a 3-year assignment, and it was great leading that team out there. Really understood the dynamics between a global function at corporate and how that translates to actually operating in the region. I came back. I served as the chief of staff for the first chief digital officer at IBM when we were really shifting into the SaaS space and building out product sets for different cohorts like developers, like engineers. We were moving into cloud and AI. Then I moved into a global developer role. I was leading developers and startups. Again, very different, more on the business side. And then my last role at IBM was leading ecosystem marketing, which was really our partner business. In tech, so much of the channel drives the revenue for the company, about 30%. And I loved that space, working with resellers, working with distributors, working with all types of partners that were really dragging the IBM product set out into the industry, which led to becoming the CMO over at Tech Data, who was IBM's largest distribution partner at the time. First CMO role there, and right after I accepted the role, they announced a merger with one of the other large distributors in the business. So a lot of experience there, both running an internal agency for revenue. So I did have a profit number in that role, as well as leading marketing for the company. And then I moved to work for a services company, an MSP, Syntax, again, as their first CMO there as well, where they had gone through, as I said before, a lot of acquisitions. So it got to a point where the parent company was now much smaller in size than what the surrounding acquisition teams, employees, tech stacks, portfolio. So it was a very interesting time to join that company as well.
Wow. All right, to wrap us up, I think I'm going to put myself in the position of a Martechify aficionado whose company just said, you know what, over the next 12 to 18 months, we're going to probably be acquiring a half a dozen new companies, and you're going to run this thing. From the people that are in the trenches here that have been there and done that, can you guys give me maybe your top 3 recommendations for somebody who finds themselves in this situation?
Well,
Asmita, what do you think?
Go ahead, Catherine.
Go,
No,
Catherine, yeah.
I was just going to say, I think the interesting thing is understanding the current health of your business. One of the things I recommend is to do a health check, like really see where you are, red, yellow, green, on the current state, and be honest with yourself about that, and not always feel that the current stack you have is what it should be, because sometimes those acquisition teams have elements to what they're doing where they may be stronger than you in a certain area, and you should choose to adopt that. I think sometimes the incumbent feels like you have to stay with what we have, and you miss some of the benefit of those incoming companies. I think the second thing that I would recommend is really understanding the marketing mix that you have, because that marketing mix really dictates the types of technologies you need. If you're event heavy, you need to invest in a CVent or an event tool. If you're very brand and identity heavy, then you really need to invest in social listening tools. If you're moving and you're more sophisticated in understanding predictive models and using AI, you need to look at a tool like 6 Sense. So understanding the mix of your business and also the maturity of your marketing function by discipline, hugely important. And then look and see what those incoming teams have and are using, where they're seeing success that you can adopt. I see so many companies bring in acquisitions and end up losing the value of what made those acquisition companies great. So that was only 2, but
that's great advice. Bernie or Asmita, what do you want to jump in?
Yeah, happy to add in, Catherine.
Yeah.
Like, great advice on making sure you not just look at what to change into, but also to understand what's working on the companies you have acquired. I think I would go with number one thing, try to understand the acquisition thesis, like why exactly you made that acquisition, and if one of your, you can make acquisition on multiple fronts, like what value you are trying to unlock. And if the number one value you are trying to unlock is the customer base or cross-sell, upsell, then prioritizing upfront these consolidations would be great rather than waiting longer, because the more you wait, you will probably start hurting the value you were trying to bring through that acquisition. Making sure everyone is aligned with the overall outcomes. So these are big undertakings. These are not smaller projects. Making sure your C-suite is fully aligned with the vision and expectation setting. I think I shared this earlier. Some of these projects can take longer than 8-12 months. So you should have good alignment on the end vision. But again, if you can't see what the end vision is, the patience within the organization starts slowing down. So you have to make sure you have metrics or KPIs to show the progress.
Mm.
Number two, I would say like people and change management is key. You're trying to change systems, but at the end of the day, it will change the processes and how people use those systems. So invest ahead in creating either a training plan, onboarding plan, change management plan. There will be anxiety throughout the process of change. Like some of the conversation would like very heavy when you're trying to do problem solving these bigger projects. Making sure you have a focused work stream on change management and bringing people along, it's much crucial to make these transformation projects successful. And last but not least, I would say there will be surprises. So be ready. When you are trying to transform, you know what you know. You can do all the due diligence in understanding. A lot of these things come with very little or low documentations. If you're making acquisition at a smaller scale, there's a lot of institutional knowledge which is not documented anywhere. So making sure you're ready for 70% known factor and 30% you are keeping with things will derail. You will find out something which you did not know. Make sure you have a plan to adapt to new information and make right decisions throughout the way and keep communicating.
I love the expectations and also that you're not gonna, things will go wrong.
Of course.
Great
Yeah.
advice. Bernie, what would you add?
Yeah. So really great pointers there. I would say I normally you know when I had this situation in front of me, I would ask myself at least three main questions, which was reasons. Why did we acquire this company? What is the goal here? What are they expecting from us? And obviously, the reasons behind that is very important. I also asked the really important questions Asmita mentioned, which is people, right? But not only the people that were involved in the companies, but also what kind of customers were we acquiring? Are they the same customers? Are they different customers? How do we connect with those people, and how do we communicate this merger to these people? And third was always communication for me. Have the right wording, the right communication, the right message at the right time, through the right channels. That was also very important. But besides those three, I ended up almost always asking a couple of more questions, like, where does their growth come from? How can we learn from their growth, and how can we adapt to that growth? It also was a question that always came around maturity, right? How mature was their marketing function, their tech stack, their marketing team itself? How could we either teach them or learn from them, depending on how well equipped they were? It was always, a very different situation for each one of the mergers I went through. And those questions were always key to really understand who was learning from who. What was really the main reason of this merger? What were we all pursuing with it? And how would we be able to communicate about it in the best manner to everybody, so that everybody aligns, and obviously we do not waste time? But in almost all of the cases, I certainly agree with Asmita. There will be, blood, sweat, and tears, and long nights for sure. And things will go wrong, and things will have to be adjusted, will have to be understood differently. We would have to ask those questions ourselves once again in a couple of months for sure, because the answer is probably going to change, and we need to be adaptive, and we need to be understanding that once you have a plan, that plan can work. Most of the time, hopefully it will, but in many cases it won't. And you have to be able to, pause, regroup, and rethink how you're going to move forward from that point. And asking those questions is always very important during the process, not only at the beginning, but during as well, because things definitely change. People leave, people come on board. Customers are not happy with the merger, or they are, depending on how you see it. Products will change, product offerings will change, pricing will change. So everything has to be in the mix, and obviously you have to be ready for changes on each of those levels.
Wow, it sounds like we should be doing like lots of like calming techniques to get through this. I want to just thank you guys for being so generous with your time and your expertise today. Thank you so much for showing up and sharing your knowledge with the Martechify community.
Don't get
And
me wrong, it's a lot of fun.
oh yeah, I think there's probably not
That's
a
what we
single
tell
person here
ourselves, right,
who
Bernie?
could be bored.
It is
Yeah,
fun.
so thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate your time. And thank you to all of our viewers.